Hello and welcome to My Bibles. Today we have a really special one that we're going to do. This is, again, not of my discipline, but it's a different one. This is the Orthodox Study Bible. We'll take a proper look at it right way round so you can see that. But I just want to do like a quick introduction. So recently I've gotten in touch with members in the Orthodox Greek Orthodox community and faith, and just trying to understand what they're expressing, their faith background, how that works. Of course, Christianity is broad and spans the globe, and it has many different faces, and so Orthodoxy is one of the long running in a different tradition. So we have, of course, Western Christianity, which has been heavily influenced by colonialism, etc., etc. You can have Middle Eastern and African Christianity, which is heavily influenced by the early church, and then you have the Greek Orthodox and Eastern Orthodox, which is heavily influenced then by the early church's missionary work in that direction. So that's a really basic understanding. Like, don't shoot the messenger, that's really basic, huh? So like, caveat, that's very basic, but it gives you a kind of a ballpark figure. So this is a branch of Christianity that I'm obviously not that familiar with, and so I happened to see this Bible after meeting up with them, and I thought, well, what better way to get involved than to actually have a copy of their Bible, not knowing certain things. So I didn't know that in most Orthodox churches they will speak Koine Greek for their liturgy, and so if you're in Greece or in places where it's predominantly Greek speaking, then you'll find that in Eastern Orthodox churches you'll find Slavic languages, Latin, and even Koine Greek being spoken in the liturgy. Now that can change. So in the Russian Orthodox Church, I believe that they speak Russian, as far as I understand from the research I've been doing, and so on and so forth. But I was kind of like, oh, look, they're in the actual original, one of the original languages, of course. So that's quite interesting. Knowing the people I know that actually in practice in Western countries, oftentimes they speak English. That is the mother tongue of the people that they're speaking to, or one of the mother tongues of the people they're speaking to. So of course they do speak English as well. So I thought that was quite interesting. I read a few different comments here and there about how the services go. I did read a really funny story of a young man who wanted to become a priest in the Orthodox tradition, but did not want to learn Koine Greek, and he had no interest in that, which I found kind of shocking from that Orthodox background, but also from a Christian background, you know, not wanting to learn something so basic to the people from which you're taking your faith, from which the faith is written, seems a little bit arrogant. But needless to say, he was an English speaker, so that often is a challenge for us English speakers. Anyway, let's get back to this Bible. So I bought it because I happened to have met up with them and then went to a Bible show, and I saw this on sale and I was like, oh, look at that, let's get that and see what it is, not realizing that it is actually the first ever translation of the Orthodox Bible into English. I had no clue. What's interesting, and obviously the first study Bible, so it's the first study Bible that they have altogether. I think there are English translations and stuff, but this is the first Orthodox study Bible. So I thought that was really interesting. What is fascinating is the choice that the producers of this Bible chose to put together. And so what they do is they use St. Athanasius's Septuagint edition. So they take that translation of the Hebrew Bible into the Septuagint and translated it into English. So follow the line, and then they actually do something which a lot of people had a lot of complaints about, which is for the New Testament. So that's the Old Testament, the Septuagint, but for the New Testament they take the New King James Version. And from what I've seen online, there are a lot of complaints about taking the New King James Version. Many people felt that the translation is weaker than some of its newer counterparts, felt that you could have better translations to actually use, and so there's been some debate over that, I guess. I'm not fully in the community, so please, anyone who is, forgive me. I'm simplifying it here for us who are not. The Bible itself is fascinating. It has the lectionary readings, so if you like devotional type readings, it has ancient artwork in it. So I want to get in and show you some of it, because I think it is a fascinating Bible, and if you're not from that tradition, it's just a nice way to kind of step into that world. And I'm of the opinion that the more we expand our understanding and we have grace and commonality, the more we can find then how the Holy Spirit is using so many different people to understand the scriptures. And so let's get into it. Let's have a look and let's show you and see what you think. So as you can see, this is a real working desk, but this is the Orthodox Study Bible. Ancient Christianity Speaks to Today's World is the kind of strapline. It's brought to us by Thomas Nelson, our friends there, Thomas Nelson, who are obviously quite well known and well loved. It's a decent size, not too heavy, not too thick, but what it packs in is quite fabulous in some way. So let's have a look. It is beautiful. Every page that is in colour is absolutely stunning. So you have to get into that to a certain degree. They have the introduction here in which it gives you some of the outline of what they would do. Obviously, how the Orthodox Church have their Bible, how the Roman Catholic have their Old Testament, and how the Protestants. And you can see there is quite a difference in the number of books between Orthodox Old Testament and a Protestant Old Testament. Now, what would have been really nice is if you actually had the Hebrew Old Testament next to it, because then I think you would have got a real understanding of, well, what are we adding, what are we taking away, and why are we making those choices. But that's okay. I think it's fair enough to say that that's really helpful. So if you're from a Protestant background, which I am, and you're looking to see the additions and the extras, this is a really great way. And obviously the Orthodox Church include the most books. Can you see that there? So the Orthodox include the most books. Yeah, so there's that. So as we look through, the text is really quite wonderful, big. I can see it. It does get smaller as we go on, but there are some parts which it is lovely. Each book has an introduction. Again, just beautifully laid out. I think that's part of the culture, part of the tradition is the iconography, and so you get some of that coming across in the in how it's actually laid out. And then you have these introductory outlines so that you can see what their theological basis is and how they're viewing it. And then we get into the scripture, and of course it's a study Bible, so we have our study notes underneath. Hope you can see that. And so you have those elements. Now I'm going to try and found one, some of the beautiful iconography that you find throughout the Bible. And this is one in Psalms. There is just this beautiful iconography that's being done. So you get an insight into what the Orthodox Church is. I come from a Protestant background in which we have no iconography. And so this is something that is not natural to us and we do not participate in. But I can certainly appreciate the artistic beauty and the expression that is happening. We do believe in art and we do believe in expression. We just don't have iconography. And so it's an interesting look into that world, especially if you are an outsider, which I am, and so therefore as a Protestant it's a world that I may not know as well or have as much influence in. So if we get to the New Testament, of course this is a translation that we will be familiar with, so I guess to a certain degree what you're looking at is these notes here. Is the big plus point, because the translation itself is something that we're familiar with, being that it is a New King James Version translation. So that then just kind of is a bit I can understand why people were disappointed. So there's that. There's an understanding of why people were disappointed. I'm just trying to... Oh, Daniel is so close to Matthew. Oh, fascinating. So I just wanted to have a look at the kind of introduction to the New Testament. Again, with those themes and ideas, of course, we're all Christians based on the understanding of the New Testament in light of the Old Testament, not as an absence of. So there's some of the things I would like to, and I haven't done this yet because I haven't done my test, so I'm doing my test live on you. I would like to just look at Genesis chapter 2 and let's see how they're doing with their translations, because of course this is from the Septuagint and is definitely, I mean, even the titles are quite different. Ancestral sin, I think that's quite a different way of expressing topics that we talk about. The Lord said, "It's not good for man to be alone. I will make him a helper comparable to him." And we have here a star. So let's see, 2:8:17. God gave man. So here in the notes, there's a lot about, you know, I'm not a fan of the Helper translation, but it's comparable to him, which I think is an addition that some of our English translations could do with at the very least, because, of course, there is an equality that the text is trying to bring out there, and not a subservience relationship. But I have to say, it looks fascinating. Every time I think that, you know, I just want to dive in and have a look at what my Orthodox friends and family are thinking and experiencing, this is a great way of doing that respectfully. Some of your questions can get answered then in here without overly burdening your friends, which is always good. But I hope this is helpful to you, to give you a different perspective. For me, as I said, with all things, when you have a Bible, you really are looking at the intent of the author, and with them being so obvious of what the intention is, this is for the Orthodox community. It is the first study Bible that's been produced with their notes, with their ancient text, with their ancient history being put into this Bible. It's such a window into a type of Christianity that maybe in the West, in the Protestant tradition particularly, we're quite far removed from. So I really just think it's a great way of having an insight and finding commonality with others. So for that, I will say for me, it's a great addition to my extensive Bible collection. Enjoy. Have a good one. Bye-bye.